Hello everyone and welcome to the second video of chapter number 3. So today in this video we will learn about the second topic of chapter 3, that is methods of sampling. So let's begin. Methods of sampling is classified into two, that is random sampling and non-random sampling. Random sampling is further classified into lottery method and tables of random numbers, whereas non-random sampling is further classified into purposive sampling, stratified sampling, systematic sampling, quota sampling, and convenience sampling. So now we will learn in detail about each of these methods of sampling one by one. First, let us understand what is random sampling. Random sampling is that method of sampling in which each and every item of the universe has equal chance of being selected in the sample. So here randomly we are going to select the sample where each and every item they have equal chance of being selected. There is no control of the investigator to select the sample as it entirely depends on the chance factor. Also, this method is more suitable when the items are homogeneous and identical to each other. Also, we know that this method is very much economical. Random sampling may be done in any of the following ways. That is lottery method and table of random numbers. So there are two methods to perform this random sampling. Either we can go for lottery method or for random number tables. First come to lottery method. What is lottery method? So as we all know that it is like a lottery, a paper slip is made, which is where the items, the numbers are written, paper were folded and kept in a box. And some slips are drawn from that box or from a bowl to form a sample of the universe. So that is lottery method. Coming to random of table numbers, where numbers are written randomly and they are then chosen. So these are the two methods to select any sample randomly. There are certain merits and demerits of random sampling, that is, it is completely free from personal biasness. That is, the investigator cannot be biased as it totally depends on the chance factor. That is, each and every item of the universe has equal chance of being selected, which comes under the second merit of it. Next one is it shows a fair representation of sample. Each sample is fairly represented and have the chance of selection. Last merit is it is a very simple and straightforward method where there is no partiality and it is also like very much economical. But it has demerits. Now what is the demerit? It does not guarantee proportionate representation. So under this method, when the items are homogeneous, then this method is suitable. If all the items they are not homogeneous and they are different in characteristic, then we can't have this method. The next demerit is it does not give weightage to certain important item. As the random sampling, we have the items randomly selected, so equal weightage is not given to important items. So this was all about random sampling. Coming to non-random sampling, where the first sampling is purposive and deliberate sampling. So what is purposive and deliberate sampling? It is that method in which investigator himself makes the choice of the samples item which in his opinion are the best representative of the universe. So it is important for you to understand there that under this method of sampling, it is the investigator who will choose sample according to his choice. the sample which will be best suitable for him to represent the universe. Suppose, for example, if the investigator wants to investigate about the iron and steel industry in India, then definitely he will select Tata Iron and Steel Industry, Bokaro Iron and Steel Industry, then Bhilai Iron and Steel Industries. These industries will be his first priority. Coming to the merits of it, it is flexible because it allows the inclusion of the samples which are like most suitable to be selected. Then it is very simple technique of selection of sample ideas, and also selection of item can be deliberately turned into the purpose of study. Coming to demerit, as we know, there will be definitely personal biasness just because it is the investigator who will be selecting the sample. Because of the personal biasness involved in this method, there is chance of the reliability will be less and the result can become doubtful. Coming to the next method under non-random sampling is stratified or mixed sampling. So please understand now this second method, that is, according to this method of sampling, population is divided into different strata having different characteristics, and some of the items are selected from each strata. So the entire population gets represented. So the whole population is divided into any strata. For example, if I will divide the class into two strata of boy and girl, okay, I've divided the class into boys and girls. So now if there is like 30 boys and 20 girls in our class and I have to collect 10 samples, 10 students, then what I will do, I will select 5 boys from out of that 30 boys and 5 girls from out of those 20 girls. So what I have done previously, I have first divided the class into two strata of boys and girls, and then I have selected equal number of sample from both the strata. Coming to the merit of it, it covers covers the diverse characteristics of population. Also, there is like a comparative analysis is possible because the selection is done on the basis of strata, and the result which we are getting from this method of sampling, it is quite reliable and meaningful. Coming to the demerit of it, it has limited scope. It has limited scope. Why? Because it is like not always possible to divide the population into different strata. At certain point of time, it become difficult to divide the population into different strata. There can be certain biasness because the investigator can be biased while making the strata, because dividing the population on the basis of strata is all his choice. Lastly, it is not suitable for small size of population. If suppose already the population size is very small, then how we can further divide it into other parts? So these all are the demerits of stratified and mixed sampling. Next we have third method of non-random sampling, that is systematic sampling. Under systematic sampling, we have to understand that in this method, units of population are numerically, geographically and alphabetically arranged. Every nth item of the number is selected as a sample. So please understand with one example that in your class you got your roll numbers there from, suppose if there are 50 students in a class, so all the 50 students have roll number from 1 to 50. Now if we have to select sample according to this systematic sampling method, and from that 50 population of the student we have to select 5 students as sample. Following the systematic sampling, what will be done by the investigator, that the investigator will go and select the 5th roll number, the 15th roll number, 25th, 25 roll number, 35 roll number and 45 roll number. So it is the gap of enter number. So if 5th roll number is selected, then there will be the gap of 10, then definitely it will be the understood by each student that roll number 6 will not be selected, roll number 14 will not be selected, 44 will not be selected. So there is one systematic order of selection that comes under systematic sampling. It has certain merits and demerits. That is, it is very simple method as it is like numerically, geographically and alphabetically arranged. It is very there is very less possibility of personal biasness, because if our investigator want to select a person who is having a roll number 12 or roll number 2, then he cannot select because they won't come under this nth number of selection. Coming to demerit of it, that one of the major demerit is the items of the population, they won't get equal chance of being selected. Also, there is no specific purpose if population are homogeneous. So if the population are not homogeneous, then it will become difficult to perform this systematic sampling. The population has to be homogeneous. Otherwise, it will not be, this method will not be specific for it. The next method is quota sampling. In this method, the population is divided into different groups or classes according to different characteristics of the population. For example, if there is entire population of a country and we have to select or entire population of a state, then we will divide the population on the basis of, suppose, as general, ST, SC, OBC, and then we will select the number of samples from these groups. Or we will divide the population on the basis of classes, rich class, middle class, low class, and then we will select the samples. So these comes under quota sampling, where we are dividing the group on the basis of class or community, we can say, or different groups, and then selecting the sample. Coming to the merit, that it is very economical, it is not at all expensive and easy method to perform. Coming to demerit, there is high degree of personal biasness because investigator can be biased while selecting the sample, and because of this personal biasness involved in this method, it makes the method as less reliable. Coming to the 5th method, that is convenience sampling, and the last method of non-random sampling method. Okay. This is the most easiest method performed by the investigator, so it is called as convenience sampling. In this method, sampling is done by the investigator in such a manner that suits his convenience. It means no techniques, no methods, no particular method of way is there to perform it. It is just according to the convenience or the mood of the investigator to select the sample. If suppose I have to select 5 students from your class and I will follow this convenience sampling, then what I'll do, I'll come to the class and I'll just say, okay, the first the student who are sitting in the first 2 benches, they just come out and they will be the sample of my survey. Have you understood? That is just according to my convenience. I am not at all following any way, any method to perform this investigation, and I am using this convenience sampling in my investigation. Coming to the merits of it, it is definitely the simplest method and least expensive. And the demerit, definitely it will be unscientific, as there is no particular method or ways used to perform it, and this make as unreliable. The result will not at all be very fruitful under this convenience sampling. Now let us understand about the reliability of sampling data. It means that while selecting the sample, what are the important factors that should be kept in mind that will make the data, the sample, as more reliable. First of all, the sample that we are selecting, the size of the sample should be proper, should be adequate. The size should not be like very small, because it will fail to represent the population. So while selecting the sample out of total population, a proper sample size should be selected, which will represent the whole population. Next one is proper method. Which method is suitable for selecting the sample? That method will only be adopted by the investigator. So the investigator must have the knowledge of all the sampling method, and then he would place the proper sampling method to select the sample. Next one is definitely the personal bias of the correspondent or the enumerator should not be there. They should be very fair while selecting the sample, because that will affect the reliability of sampling data. Lastly, it is very much important for the enumerator to be trained. Proper training should be given to the enumerator, because if they are not trained, it will make them not expert. They will not be expert in their field of investigation, and also won't be able to select the samples properly. So this was all about the reliability of sampling data. Now coming to a comparative outlook of census and sampling method, means these are the point of difference between the census and sample method. Coming to coverage, that if we are going to have census method, then census method can be performed when the area of investigation, or if we want the whole the information to be collected from the entire population, then we will go with census method. Otherwise we will go with sampling method. Coming to suitability, census method is suitable when the area of investigation is small, but when the area of investigation is large, we should have sampling method. Coming to accuracy, if you want the result to be very much accurate, as 100% accurate, then one must follow census method. Otherwise one can go with sampling method. Census method is much costlier as compared to sampling method. Census method is again time consuming, because we have to get information from each and every item of the population, so it is time consuming, whereas sampling method is less time taking. Coming to natures of item, under natures of item we can differentiate as the census method is particularly suitable when the items in the population have diverse characteristics. Then we have to go with census method when the characteristic is diverse. But if the items of the population are homogeneous, then we can have sample method. And lastly, verification. So for verification of the statistical information obtained through census method is generally not possible. It would involve huge expenses and repetition of the whole process. Whereas sample information on the other hand can be easily verified. We can easily verify it because the samples are few in number, but this verification process is not possible in census method. So under all this point, we can differentiate between the census and the sample method. So with this, we came to an end of chapter. With the help of this video, kindly complete your notes. Thank you.